It was a crisp autumn evening when the plan was set into motion. Evan, a human baker who had made a name for himself in the town of Alvarin with his mouth-watering pastries, had no idea that tonight would change everything. The Dragonkin had never been particularly known for their subtlety. In fact, they thrived on spectacle. And what better spectacle than to prank a soft-spoken, shy dragon girl Elizabeth who happened to be deaf? She was quiet and reserved, spending most of her time secluded in her quarters, avoiding the usual raucous celebrations. The dragon families were known for, the mastermind behind the prank was none other than Evan's cousin, a mischievous young dragon named Cashin, who thought it would be fun to set Elizabeth up on a blind date with the unsuspecting human baker. Cashin was certain the combination of Elizabeth's gentle demeanor and Evan's obliviousness would create a hilarious scene. The idea was simple. Cashin would lead Evan to believe that Elizabeth was a highly sought-after, glamorous figure only to reveal later that she was in fact a shy, socially awkward girl who barely spoke and couldn't hear. To add to the drama, Cashin suggested they meet at Evan's bakery, where he worked late most nights preparing fresh batches of bread and sweet treats. As the evening progressed, Evan was in the middle of arranging some of his finest pastries, wondering what kind of date he was about to experience. He'd never been one for blind dates, let alone with someone he had never met. But the idea of meeting a dragon, a species known for their power and mysterious beauty, piqued his curiosity. Cashin had given him no further details, only that the dragon girl was different. That was all Evan needed to hear. He had seen dragons in town, but they'd always kept their distance, rarely engaging with humans. Their majestic wings, sharp features, and fiery eyes were intimidating enough to make any person take a step back. At the agreed-upon time, the door to his bakery swung open. Evan looked up from the oven and saw her. Elizabeth, she wasn't anything like the confident, charismatic dragons he had imagined. Her skin, an ethereal shade of pale green, shimmered under the soft lights. Her wide, golden eyes were filled with apprehension, and her wings, large and muscular, though folded, looked like they had never once been used for flight. There was a quiet, almost sad beauty to her, an unspoken story written in every line of her delicate form. "Hi," Evan said with a warm smile, unsure how to proceed. "You must be Elizabeth?" She nodded, looking down at the floor, her long silvery hair cascading like a waterfall. Her hands trembled, but she tried to mask it, folding her fingers tightly together. Evan took a moment, looking at her with curiosity, not at all what he had expected. "Would you like something to drink?" he asked, motioning toward a small table where fresh pastries were laid out. "I have some warm tea and pastries. My specialty." Elizabeth nodded again, but she didn't speak. There was an awkward silence between them, and Evan couldn't help but wonder if he had been misled. He had heard nothing about her being so quiet. Cashin said, "You'd be different, but I didn't expect this." His words came out in a soft, slightly confused tone, but as soon as he saw her face flush with embarrassment, he instantly regretted them. "I'm sorry," he added quickly. "I didn't mean it like that." Elizabeth's face was still red, but her eyes softened, and she gestured with her hands, a form of sign language, he realized. He could barely understand it, but the message was clear. "It's okay. I don't speak much." Evan took a deep breath, his heart tugging at the sight of her vulnerability. He motioned toward the pastries, trying to ease the tension. "You don't need to talk. I don't mind." Elizabeth slowly reached out and picked up a small cinnamon roll, carefully breaking off a piece with her fingers. As she chewed, her eyes wandered around the bakery, admiring the delicate arrangement of sweets. But her nervousness didn't dissipate. If anything, it deepened. She was like a shy bird unsure of whether it could fly. Evan watched her for a moment, then decided to do something uncharacteristic, something he had never done on a date before. "Would you like me to teach you something?" he asked, his voice soft but sincere. Elizabeth's eyes widened, surprised by his sudden offer. She nodded again, taking a deep breath. Evan began to move his hands in slow, deliberate motion sign language. Elizabeth blinked, then watched him intently. It was a rudimentary attempt, but it was enough to make her feel more at ease. "You're not here to laugh at me, are you?" Evan asked after a moment, his voice gentle. I mean, I know it's a prank, right? Elizabeth froze, her eyes widening in confusion. He had no idea how much his words stung her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Instead, she signed rapidly in an attempt to communicate. What do you mean, prank? Evan looked perplexed. Cashin, he said you were being set up as part of a prank. I thought you were here for that. Elizabeth blinked, and her face flushed again, this time with a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. Cashin said that? Before Evan could respond, a loud burst of laughter echoed from the back of the bakery. Cashin stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with amusement. I see the date's going differently than expected. Evan stood up, confused, his expression faltering. Cashin, what's going on? You said. Cashin waved his hand dismissively. It was supposed to be a joke. Set you up with the shy dragon girl. But I didn't expect you to actually treat her like a person. Evan's eyes narrowed as he turned back to Elizabeth, who was clearly mortified. She wasn't just some pawn in a game, she was a person, one who had been misunderstood by the very people who were supposed to care for her. What do you mean by treat her like a person? Cashin? Evan asked, his voice growing firm. She's a person. Just because she doesn't speak doesn't mean she's less than anyone else. Cashin blinked, momentarily taken aback by Evan's tone. For a moment there was silence as everyone processed the exchange. Evan's words cut through the air like a blade, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Elizabeth finally broke the silence, signing softly but with a sense of clarity. It's okay. I didn't want to be part of this prank anyway. Cashin swallowed hard, a little humiliated. Well, I didn't think it would end like this. But Evan simply smiled at Elizabeth, his earlier awkwardness replaced with a newfound warmth. No more pranks, he said gently. You're welcome here, Elizabeth. I'll always make sure of that. Elizabeth smiled, a slow, hesitant curve of her lips, but it was enough. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as the shy, deaf girl the world had often overlooked, but as a person deserving of kindness and respect, and as Evan turned to prepare another batch of pastries. Elizabeth sat quietly at the table, no longer feeling like a misfit in the human world. For once, she was exactly where she belonged. End.